Commander Taiwan Park sat alone in his small stone cottage in the Scottish Highlands. Rain tapped against the windows as the fire crackled. His weathered hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had gone cold hours ago. 20 years in the Special Air Service had taught him patience, but tonight that quality was failing him. The message alert on his secure terminal had come at 2:17 a.m. He'd been awake anyway, haunted by dreams he never discussed with anyone. When the screen illuminated with an urgent diplomatic channel, Taiwan felt a coldness that had nothing to do with the Highland chill. His sister Mai Sun had taken her children to Centauri Prime as part of a cultural exchange program. The diplomatic visit was supposed to be routine, a gesture of goodwill between Earth and the Galactic Council. The message bore the official seal of Earth's diplomatic corps. As Taiwan opened it, Ambassador Song's familiar face appeared, her expression grave. "Commander Park," she began formally, then softened. "Taiwan, I need to speak with you urgently. Please establish a secure connection when you receive this." Taiwan initiated the call immediately. The connection took 30 seconds to encrypt, 30 seconds during which his mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Ambassador Song's hologram flickered to life in his living room. Her usual composed demeanor was fractured by obvious distress. "There's been an incident," she said without preamble. Jinnah and Hyunki were separated from their tour group yesterday at the Central Archives. Taiwan's breath caught. "Are they hurt?" They wandered into a restricted zone, a ceremonial chamber. The council guards found them touching an artifact called the Eternal Record. "They're children," Taiwan said. "Jinnah is 12. Hyunki just turned 9 last month." Ambassador Song nodded. "We explained that. We explained they couldn't read the warning glyphs. The council has." She paused, searching for words. "The council has invoked their sacred protocol violation statute." Taiwan stood, the chair scraping against the floor. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means they're being held for judgment under council law rather than diplomatic convention. They claim their internal security laws supersede our diplomatic agreements. And Earth does nothing." Taiwan's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Ambassador Song straightened. "We've filed formal protests. We've demanded their return under Articles 7 and 19 of the First Contact Treaty. We've threatened economic sanctions." "Not enough," Taiwan said. "We can't risk open conflict. Their technology." "Spare me." Taiwan cut her off, his patience finally snapping. "What's happened to the children? Not what might happen. What has already happened?" The silence stretched between them. Ambassador Song's eyes dropped, unable to meet his gaze. "The council expedited their judgment," she said finally. "They claimed the sacred nature of the violation required immediate resolution." "What does that mean?" Taiwan asked, though a part of him already knew. "They were processed according to council protocols yesterday." "I'm sorry, Taiwan. We received confirmation 3 hours ago." The room seemed to tilt. Taiwan gripped the edge of his desk. "Processed," he repeated. "Not killed or executed. Processed. As if his niece and nephew were materials to be handled, not children with dreams and futures. Jinnah, who wanted to be a xenobiologist. Hyunki, who collected toy spacecraft and knew the name of every star visible from Earth. The council claims it was merciful," Ambassador Song continued, her voice hollow. "Quick and painless. They considered it a gesture of respect toward a new species." "Did they return the bodies?" Taiwan asked. Ambassador Song shook her head. "Council protocols include complete atomic dissolution. They call it returning to the cosmic whole." Taiwan said nothing for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was eerily calm. "What is Earth's response?" "The President is addressing the United Nations in an hour. We're severing diplomatic relations with the Council and recalling all human citizens from Council space." "Not enough," Taiwan said again. "It's all we can do without risking war. A war we would lose, Taiwan. Billions would die." Taiwan looked at Ambassador Song's hologram. Thank you for informing me personally, Yunji, he said, using her first name for the first time in their 10-year acquaintance. She nodded, surprised. Of course. My son was my friend at university. Her voice broke. I should have done more. We all should have, Taiwan said. Give my sister my love when you speak to her. After the connection ended, Taiwan sat motionless for precisely 5 minutes. Then he moved with the efficiency that had kept him alive through 3 decades of military service. First, he destroyed his communication device, not merely turned it off, but physically dismantled it, dropping the components into a container of acid he kept for cleaning metal. No trace, no tracking. Next, he opened the hidden compartment beneath his floorboards. Inside lay several passports with different names, emergency currency from 12 worlds, and weapons that technically didn't exist. He selected one passport, Hyun Park, import/export businessman. He packed a single bag with essentials, nothing that would draw attention. From a locked cabinet, he retrieved a small wooden box. Inside were 2 items, a bracelet Jinnah had made for him of colored string, and a crude drawing by Hyun-ki of Uncle Taiwan in his super soldier suit fighting aliens. Taiwan carefully placed the drawing in his breast pocket and tied the bracelet around his wrist. As dawn broke over the Scottish hills, Taiwan Park locked the cottage door behind him. The neighbors would later tell authorities he'd mentioned visiting family. They wouldn't worry about his absence for weeks. By the time anyone thought to look for him, Commander Park had vanished, leaving behind no trace except a cottage with a cold fireplace and a single message on a piece of paper burned in the grate, its ashes unreadable. The most dangerous man on Earth was now off the grid, with nothing left to lose, and a single purpose that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Council. The abandoned military bunker lay hidden beneath an old factory outside Seoul. The air inside smelled of metal and dust. Dim emergency lights cast long shadows across concrete walls covered in faded warning signs. Taiwan stood at a steel table, methodically checking the experimental combat suit. His movements were precise, the result of thousands of hours of training. The suit looked like ordinary black fabric until activated. Then it would harden at impact points while remaining flexible at joints. It could stop most energy weapons and adapt to different atmospheric conditions. Most importantly, it could mask his biological signature. You understand this is suicide, a voice asked from across the room. Jun Park stepped into the light. He was shorter than Taiwan but broader, with a face marked by a long scar that ran from temple to jaw. They had served together for 15 years in the SAS before June retired to private security. Not asking you to come, Taiwan replied without looking up, testing the neural interface on the suit's collar. That's why I'm here. Jun grinned, revealing a chipped front tooth. Thought you'd need help stealing the Phantom. The Phantom was a prototype stealth shuttle, designed to penetrate enemy detection systems. Only 3 existed, all supposedly locked in maximum security facilities. Taiwan finally looked up. How did you know? My son called me after you disappeared, said you'd gone dark the same way you did before Damascus. Jun shrugged. Wasn't hard to figure out what you're planning. Before Taiwan could respond, the bunker's security system beeped. 3 figures emerged from the entrance corridor. Taiwan's hand moved to his sidearm, but Jun waved him off. I brought some friends. You'll need them. A tall woman with close-cropped hair walked forward first. Commander Park, I'm Suji. I studied the council languages for the diplomatic corps before they decided my research was too controversial. Too controversial? Taiwan asked. I discovered their formal language contains embedded psycholinguistic triggers. Their words are designed to establish dominance over other species. I wanted Earth to know. My superiors preferred appeasing the council. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with intensity. A second figure stepped forward, a man with thick glasses and nervous hands that never stopped moving. Dong Hyuk, he said simply. They kicked me out of the cybersecurity division for extreme methods. I showed how council systems could be compromised. The government called it dangerous. I called it necessary. The third figure remained half in shadow. "Just call me Han," he said quietly. His face was so ordinary it seemed designed to be forgotten. But his eyes missed nothing. Infiltration specialist. I retired when Earth signed the technology sharing agreement with the Council. Some things shouldn't be shared. Taiwan studied them. This isn't a sanctioned mission. There's no extraction plan. No backup. We know what the Council did to those children. Suji said, "Your sister's children. Earth does nothing because they fear Council technology. But fear is no excuse for abandoning justice. The Council believes humans are predictable," Taiwan said, spreading detailed schematics across the table. "They've studied our history, our conflicts. They expect either military response, which they can easily defeat, or diplomatic surrender, which they've already witnessed. They haven't met many Koreans," Sujai remarked dryly. "Our history is filled with standing against impossible odds." Dong-Kuk moved to a small device in his pocket. He pressed a button, and suddenly the room filled with a blue-tinted hologram of a massive planetary system. At its center floated a ringed world with 7 moons. "The Council homeworld," he explained. "Their security has 17 vulnerabilities. Their arrogance makes them careless. They never expected anyone would dare attack their center of power." Taiwan's eyes reflected the blue glow of the projection. "They'll learn." June pulled out a small data drive. "This has the access codes for the Phantom. It's being held at the Jinhai Naval Base. Security is minimal because officially, the shuttle doesn't exist." "How did you get these?" Taiwan asked. June smiled. "I provide security consultation for military contractors. People talk when they drink. I listen." Han finally stepped fully into the light. "I've prepared identities for all of us. Papers, histories, digital footprints. If anyone looks, they'll find 5 tourists who left Earth separately for the outer colonies 3 days ago." Taiwan looked at them. These 4 volunteers prepared to risk everything for children they'd never met. The Council executed those children to send a message about human insignificance, about our powerlessness. "Then we send a message back," Suji said. Dong-Kuk expanded the hologram, zooming in on the Council's central complex. "Their central chamber is here. The elders meet daily to judge petitions. Security is heaviest during these sessions, which is exactly when we'll strike," Taiwan said. "Not with weapons, but with truth." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small crystal cube. "This is Council technology, modified by me. It contains all evidence of their systematic execution of human children over the past 15 years. Not just Jinai and Hyunki. There were others. The Council has been processing human children who violate their sacred spaces for years, establishing a pattern of dominance." "How did you get this information?" Suji asked. "My sister wasn't just any diplomat's wife. She was intelligence, deep cover. She suspected something long before her children were taken. She was getting too close. The Council made her children an example." Taiwan's voice remained steady, but his hands tightened into fists. "We have 6 days to prepare. We leave on the 7th. Once we begin, there's no turning back." In the blue glow of the alien world projection, 5 humans began plotting how to infiltrate the most heavily guarded facility in the galaxy. Their weapons were not just technology, but the element of surprise, and the righteous anger that comes from witnessing innocent blood spilled without consequence. The Council had calculated that humans would never risk everything for justice. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The Phantom shuttle moved silently through the vast emptiness of space. Its special coating absorbed sensor waves instead of reflecting them back. Inside the small craft, 5 humans sat in tense silence as they approached the Galactic Council's home system. "Final approach," Jun whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. Old habits from covert missions died hard. Through the view screen, They watched as massive defense platforms floated in perfect formation around the Council homeworld. Each platform could destroy a small fleet, yet none of them registered the Phantom's presence. They rely too much on technology, Han observed from the sensor station. Their defense grid has predictable scan patterns, 15 seconds between sweeps, always the same. The planet below grew larger in their view. Unlike Earth's blue and green, this world shimmered with purple oceans and silver landmasses. Towering crystal structures rose from the surface, catching the light of 3 moons. Council capital directly ahead, Dong-hyuk announced, his fingers dancing across the controls. Their atmospheric sensors are even more primitive than their space defenses. Taiwan moved to the rear of the shuttle where their equipment was stored. He removed a small metal case and opened it. Inside lay 5 biosuppression capsules, each the size of a grain of rice. "Last chance to reconsider," he said to the team. Sujai stepped forward first. "For the children," she said simply, extending her arm. Using a small injector, Taiwan placed the capsule beneath her skin. The tiny device would mask her human biological signature, making sensors read her as a non-human species. June and the others followed, each wincing slightly at the pinch. When all were done, Taiwan injected himself last. A cold sensation spread up his arm as the capsule activated. "Remember the plan," he said as the shuttle began its descent. "We establish the safe house first. No communication outside our encrypted channel. If captured, the capsules include an emergency dissolvent. Use it." No one needed to ask what the dissolvent would do. They all understood the mission's risks. The Phantom landed in an abandoned industrial zone outside the capital city. Its cloaking system remained active, making it invisible even to anyone walking directly past it. 96 hours, Taiwan reminded them as they prepared to separate. "Then you leave, with or without me." Han and Dong-hyuk would establish their base in an abandoned processing facility. Suji would infiltrate the public archives to gather additional intelligence. June would secure their exit route, and Taewon would penetrate the council tower itself. Taiwan's disguise was simple but effective. The council ruled over 17 subject species. He wore the gray coveralls of a Moran maintenance worker. The Marans were known for their silence and efficiency, perfect for someone who wished to avoid conversation. A special mask altered his facial features to match Moran physiology. With the biosuppression capsule masking his human DNA, he would register as just another servant species. He joined a transport carrying workers to the central city. None of the other passengers spoke to him. Subject species rarely spoke to each other, another council tactic to prevent unity among those they ruled. The transport stopped at the base of the central tower, a massive structure of crystal and metal that rose 2 kilometers into the sky. Maintenance workers filed out in orderly lines, each scanning their work badges. Taiwan scanned the forged badge Dong-hyuk had created. The system beaked its approval, and he stepped into the massive building that housed the Galactic Council's seat of power. The first day, Taiwan simply observed. He cleaned hallways, repaired minor systems, and noted the movement patterns of guards and officials. No one looked twice at a Moran worker. They were considered too simple and subservient to pose any threat. On the second day, he began mapping the restricted areas. Using small devices disguised as maintenance tools, he scanned for security systems and access points. By the third day, he had identified a path to the archives. Council records were stored in a heavily guarded section of the tower's lower levels. The area was restricted to all but the highest-ranking officials. Taiwan waited until the night cycle, when most of the tower's occupants retreated to their quarters. Moving silently through service corridors, he approached the archive entrance. 2 guards stood watch, tall insectoid beings with compound eyes and natural armor. Taiwan activated a small device on his belt. It emitted a specific frequency that affected the guards' nervous systems. Not enough to harm them, but enough to make them drowsy and inattentive. He walked past them with his head down. Another invisible servant. The archive itself was a vast chamber filled with crystal data storage units. Each crystal contained thousands of years of council records. Taiwan moved to a central terminal and inserted a decoder device created by Donghuk. The system recognized him as a high-level administrator. Access granted. What he found in those records turned his blood cold. The Galactic Council had been systematically executing human children for 30 years, since first contact. Not just a few isolated incidents, hundreds of cases. The Council created situations where human children would unknowingly violate secret protocols, then used these violations to justify processing. Each execution was meticulously documented. The Council considered these deaths necessary to establish humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. They believed that targeting children created the maximum psychological impact with minimal military risk. Taiwan downloaded the complete records onto a crystal storage device. His hand shook with barely controlled rage. Jinnah and Hyunki had not been random victims. They had been selected because their mother was getting too close to discovering this very program. "I have the evidence," he transmitted through the secure channel to his team. Moving to Phase 2. As he prepared to leave the archive, a new file appeared on the terminal. Tomorrow's council agenda included a special session. Subject: Processing Protocol Extension. Human adult specimens. The council wasn't stopping with children. They were planning to expand their program. Taiwan's mission had just become more urgent. He had 24 hours to prepare his strike before more humans would die under council processing protocols. As he slipped back into the service corridors, a single tear tracked down his face beneath the Moran mask. For Jinnah, for Hyunki, and for all the children whose lives had been sacrificed to feed the Council's need for dominance. Tomorrow, the Council would learn that humans were not as predictable as they believed. The Grand Council chamber glittered with light reflected from its crystal walls. 73 Council elders sat in concentric rings, each on elevated platforms that signified their species standing in the galactic hierarchy. Humans, as newcomers, had no permanent seat, only a small podium at the lowest level where their ambassador could stand when summoned. Elder Kex, a tall being with iridescent scales and 6 upper limbs, stood at the center platform. His voice resonated through the chamber thanks to audio enhancers built into the floor. "Today we continue our discussion on human expansion limitations," Kex announced. "The Earth delegation has withdrawn their petition for colonization rights in the Proxima sector. Once again, they recognize our..." In the maintenance tunnels below the chamber, Taiwan moved silently. The narrow passages were designed for the smallest servant species. For 3 days, he had mapped every junction and access point. Now he reached his destination, the central power junction for the council chamber. Donghuk's voice came through his earpiece. "Systems ready. Sujai is in position at the broadcast center. Han has secured our exit route." "Begin countdown," Taiwan replied. 5 minutes. He removed the cover of the power junction and attached 6 small devices to specific power nodes. Each device was programmed to override the system in a precise sequence. Above, Elder Kex continued. "The processing of violation subjects continues to prove effective. Humans learn quickly when proper examples are made." A few elders shifted uncomfortably. Not all council species approved of the processing protocols, but none dared speak against them. "The next phase has been prepared," Kex continued. "Adult subjects have been identified for the first demonstration of expanded protocols." Taiwan checked his timer. 30 seconds remained. For the safety and stability of the galactic order, Kex raised all 6 hands in the Council's ceremonial gesture. "We must ensure developing species understand their proper." The chamber plunged into darkness. Elder voices rose in confusion. Some called for guards, others demanded emergency systems activation. When the lights returned 20 seconds later, they were dimmer than before. But it wasn't the lighting change that silenced the chamber. It was the images now displayed on every screen and projected onto every wall. The screens showed council chambers from decades past. The scenes were familiar to the elders. ceremonial processing of protocol violators. But now, they saw these scenes from a new perspective. Human children, confused and frightened, led into the chamber. Council elders watching impassively as the processing field activated. The silent disintegration of small bodies. One screen showed a girl with a colorful bracelet. Another showed a boy clutching a drawing. Jinnah and Hyun-Ki Park. What is the meaning of this? Kex demanded, his scales flattening against his body in anger. Shut down these displays immediately. They cannot be shut down, a calm voice announced. All eyes turned to a service entrance where a figure stood. Taiwan had removed his Moran disguise. He wore the black combat suit, its surface reflecting the horrific images playing around the chamber. Who dares breach the council chamber? Kex's voice thundered. My name is Taiwan Park, he answered, stepping into the light. Uncle of Jinnah and Hyun-Ki Park. Brother of my son Park. Human. The chamber doors sealed with a hiss as confused council members found themselves trapped inside. Some of the younger elders moved toward exits, only to find them locked. This human must be seized, Kex ordered. Guards. But the guards at the chamber entrances stood motionless. Your guards are watching the same broadcast, Taiwan explained. As are all citizens in council space. The signal cannot be blocked because it's being transmitted through your own emergency network, the one system designed never to fail. Taiwan walked slowly toward the center of the chamber. The elders drew back, unaccustomed to seeing the human move with such confidence in their sacred space. Humans lack the authority to question council judgment. Elder Kex sputtered, his ceremonial robes quivering with rage. This isn't a trial, Taiwan replied calmly. It's an exposure. Every species in council space is watching this broadcast. They're learning what you've done not just to humans, but to them. He gestured to the screens, which now showed new images. Children of other species, also processed for minor violations. The council's tactics had not been limited to humans. Murmurs rose from the younger elders. Many had never witnessed a processing ceremony, only heard them described as necessary but merciful. These records are falsified, Kex declared. This human seeks to undermine council authority through deception. These are your own records, Taiwan countered, from your own secure archives, records you thought no one would ever see. The images changed again, now showing council meetings where the strategy was explicitly discussed. Elder Kex himself appeared, younger but recognizable, explaining how targeted processing of children created maximum compliance with minimal military investment. Outside the chamber, commotion grew. Through the crystal walls, they could see crowds gathering in the tower plaza below. Citizens of all species watching the broadcast on massive public screens. You will be executed for this violation, Kex threatened, but his voice had lost its resonance. A tremendous boom echoed through the chamber as security forces began trying to breach the sealed doors. The reinforced barriers wouldn't hold for long. Taiwan made no move to escape or to attack. He simply stood in the center of the council chamber, surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. I came here prepared to die, he said. The question is what my death will mean. Will it be another secret processing, or will it happen in front of the entire galaxy? The doors burst open. Elite security forces rushed in, weapons raised. Kill me, Taiwan told them, opening his arms wide, and confirm everything I've revealed, or stand down and let your people decide if these are leaders worthy of following. The guards hesitated, looking from Taiwan to the elders to the screens still showing processed children. Slowly, one by one, they lowered their weapons. From outside the tower came the sound of thousands of voices raised in anger. The council's most carefully guarded secret was secret no more. And with that revelation, the foundation of their authority began to crumble. The Grand Assembly Hall of New Geneva gleamed under soft lights. 6 months had passed since the collapse of the Galactic Council. Today, representatives from 37 species gathered to sign the Universal Rights Accord. The room hummed with dozens of languages being quietly translated through small devices in each delegate's ear. Taiwan Park stood by a window, looking out at Earth's Lake Geneva. He wore a simple dark suit rather than a military uniform. The scars on his hands, from his escape from the Council homeworld, had almost faded. "Commander Park," the voice called. He turned to see Delegate Min, Earth's chief representative. Once a junior diplomat, Min had risen quickly after the Council's fall, known for her fair approach to interspecies negotiations. "The ceremony will begin soon," she said. "You should take your place at the main table." Taiwan glanced at the central table where the document waited. "I'm not a diplomat." "You're the reason we're here," Min replied. "The Alliance wouldn't exist without you." The events following his broadcast from the Council chamber had unfolded faster than anyone predicted. Within days, protests erupted on 17 worlds. Within weeks, 6 Council species had withdrawn from the compact. Within 2 months, the 1,000-year rule of the Galactic Council had ended. June, Suji, Dong-hyuk, and Han had returned to Earth as heroes, though they quickly disappeared from public view. Only Taiwan remained visible, pushed forward as the face of what media called the Great Revelation. The new alliance formed in the power vacuum. Unlike the Council's hierarchy, the alliance operated on principles of equality. No species held permanent authority over others. The first act of the provisional government was to end all processing protocols. Delegate Min guided Taiwan to the central table as delegates took their places. Some were former council members who had secretly opposed the processing programs. Others represented species that had suffered under council rule for centuries. "Before we sign the accord," Min announced, "the Alliance wishes to recognize the courage that made this new beginning possible." She turned to Taiwan. "The Human Park Taiwan is offered the position of Security Commissioner, with authority to ensure no species ever again suffers systematic oppression." The room fell silent, waiting for his response. Taiwan looked at the faces around him. Some familiar human features, others wildly different in form. Many had lost family members to council protocols. "I am honored by your trust," he said simply. "But I'm returning home. My work is done." Murmurs spread through the chamber. This wasn't the expected response. "The Alliance needs your experience," argued a delegate from Proxima. "What the Alliance needs," Taiwan replied, "is to move beyond the actions of one soldier seeking justice, build something better than what was destroyed." After the ceremony, Ambassador Song found Taiwan on the observation deck, watching shuttles move between Earth and the orbital stations. "You surprised everyone by declining," she said. "They're calling you the most powerful man in the galaxy who wants no power." "I didn't do it for power," he answered. "I know." She handed him a small package. This arrived from the transitional government. They found it in the council archives. Inside was a small stone carved with symbols. It had been created as a record of Jin-Ah and Hyun-Ki's processing. The council made one for each execution, storing them as trophies of their authority. Taiwan's hands trembled slightly as he held it. "We've established a scholarship program in their names," Ambassador Song told him, "for children studying interspecies relations." Taiwan nodded silently. 2 weeks later, he returned to his cottage in Scotland. The military had maintained it during his absence. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. He placed the memorial stone on his mantle and tried to resume a normal life. 1 year passed. The alliance stabilized. New treaties were signed. Trade expanded between worlds previously separated by council restrictions. Perhaps most importantly, cultural exchanges flourished. On a crisp autumn day, Taiwan received an official invitation to observe the first Galactic Youth Exchange Program in Edinburgh. He declined to participate in the opening ceremony, but agreed to observe from a distance. The program brought together children from 23 species. They would live with host families, attend local schools, and learn each other's cultures firsthand. Taiwan stood beneath an oak tree, watching children play in a park specially designed for multiple species. Human children laughed alongside beings with tentacles, wings, or exoskeletons. Among them was a small girl with iridescent scales, a child of the former council ruling species. Her name was Lim. According to the program notes, she had been orphaned when her parents' government collapsed. A human family from Korea had adopted her. Taiwan watched her playing a simple ball game with two human children. She moved with the awkward determination of someone learning unfamiliar customs. He had seen enough. As he turned to leave, something made Lim look up. Her large eyes focused on him across the distance. For a moment, neither moved. Then slowly, she raised a hand and waved. Not the formal gesture of her birth culture, but the simple human wave her adoptive family had taught her. Taiwan remembered another child waving. Jinna on her last video call before traveling to Centauri Prime. Bye, Uncle Ta. See you when we get back. For the first time since receiving that terrible message in his cottage, Taiwan smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. He raised his hand and waved back. Later that evening, he removed the memorial stone from his mantle. He would always remember Jinna and Hyun-ki. But perhaps their legacy wasn't just justice for their deaths. Perhaps it was also this new world where children of all species could play together without fear. As darkness fell over the Scottish hills, a former soldier who had challenged an empire sat by his fire. Finally at peace, the galaxy would continue to evolve. New challenges would arise. But today, watching those children play, Taiwan Park had glimpsed a future worth protecting. The end